Welcome to Facts Behind the Figures, the program that decodes the data and dissects the decisions shaping our economy. Beyond interest rate shifts to inflation targets, we go behind the headlines, spotlighting the rationale, the stakes, and the signals behind Central Bank of Nigeria's economic policy decisions. Not excluding your views, of course, as we navigate these economic and financial terrains. This is Facts
Behind the Figures.
Insight, analysis, clarity, facts behind the figures, where policy meets perspective.
In an evolving economic landscape, communication matters as much as policy. Beyond interest rates and ratios, the Central Bank of Nigeria continues to place emphasis on clarity, transparency, and public understanding. Welcome to Facts Behind the Figures. I am Sutechi Ebo. This edition of Facts Behind the Figures examines the outcomes of the MPC Communication Survey, how Nigerians engage with the message, what they understood, and what they expect next. Following the 304th Monetary Policy Committee meeting, the bank once again turned to Nigerians not just to announce decisions, but to listen, learn, and to measure how well those decisions were understood. At its 304th meeting held on the 23rd and 24th of February 2026, the Monetary Policy Committee took decisions aimed at sustaining stability while supporting economic recovery. Monetary policy rate reduced by 50 basis points to 26.5%. Standing facilities corridor retained at plus 50 minus 450 basis points. Cash reserve ratio retained at 45% for deposit money banks, 16% for merchant banks, 75% for non-TSA public sector deposits. These decisions reflect the committee's continued commitment to prudent monetary management anchored on data, context, and evolving economic conditions. To assess how well these decisions were communicated and understood, the bank conducted an e-survey across two social media platforms, LinkedIn and Instagram. The results point to strong engagement and growing public interest in monetary policy. 79% of respondents were exposed to the MPC press briefing. The press briefing emerged as the most consumed and most engaging content format. 57% read the official monetary policy communique. While press briefings continue to enjoy strong reach, engagement at more technical sessions with high-level participation were carried out by the bank to further deepen monetary policy communications and understanding. Three key events carried out for the period under review were a virtual inflation targeting monetary policy framework chaired by the Deputy Governor Economic Policy Mohammed Sani Abdullahi, held on the 17th of March 2026. Another session was held with the members of the academia on the 16th of March, and a monetary policy forum which brought together all key players in the nation's fiscal, monetary, financial legislature, bank executives, the Nigerian Economic Summit Group, as well as other regulators in the economic sector to brainstorm and widen monetary policy understanding as the CBN transits towards an inflation targeting approach to monetary policy formulation and transmission. Beyond exposure, understanding remains a critical measure of effective communication. Encouragingly, most respondents reported a strong grasp of both the messages and the policy outcomes. 86% of respondents understood the MPC decisions. 93% found the communication informative and engaging. 86% described the communication as clear and timely. These results suggest that CBN's communication tools, particularly press briefings, infographics, local language translations, and recap content, are resonating with a broad audience. Public perception of the central bank remains largely positive, with 86% expressing confidence that the CBN is fulfilling its mandate. Another 86% expect MPC decisions to have a positive economic impact. These sentiments underscore a growing level of trust while also reinforcing the responsibility to ensure that policy outcomes translate into real, everyday impact for Nigerians. Beyond percentages, qualitative feedback reveals that Nigerians truly care about having 1. A lower cost of living, especially food and transportation. 2. Calls for simpler explanations and relatable examples. 3. Requests for policies to have visible impact on everyday citizens. And lastly, continued support for CBN leadership alongside expectations for more inclusion. The message is consistent. Communication builds trust, but impact sustains it. From households to small businesses, Nigerians shared a mix of optimism and cautious hope. Now, let's head out to the streets for the Vox Pop segment, where different voices are heard.
So the central bank, in many regards, has put forward a lot of measures, monetary policies, and activated or initiated measures to ensure that, to a large extent, we have a balance in the economy. Still, the commercial banks, they have tried to ensure that they monitor, in many regards, the activities of the commercial banks to see how, at the end of the day, it delivers positive impact to business community, to individuals, and the economy generally. Whilst we see degrees of progress, we are also trusting that as we progress as a nation, we may also begin to see other measures that will, to a very large extent, make the standard of living a lot better for Nigerians. There's a lot going on, pressures here and there, but we recognize that a lot is also being done, through the CBN, right, to see that we, at the end of the day, can breathe as, citizens of Nigeria. And so that's the prayer for every Nigerian.
Even though many of us are still trying to understand some of these financial terminologies, but it's also encouraging to see the CBN, communicating with Nigerians, because communication is key, very important. Personally, I had no idea about Monetary Policy Committee, where important policies are being discussed and decided. In this digital age, some of us spend time on social media platforms like Instagram and YouTube, where we occasionally see some of their updates.
CBN is not the CBN of so many years ago. CBN of today is approachable. People can reach you. People can make lodge complaints. I personally, lodged complaint, and I got satisfactory answer through your complaints department.
For updates on the local and global economy, let us join our in-house financial analyst, Mr. Enita Ononiro.
The global economy in the first quarter of 2026 remained resilient, despite geopolitical tensions and disruptions to global trade. In particular, rising tensions and conflict between Iran and the United States have disrupted global energy markets and supply chains, especially due to the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. This has pushed up the price of not just crude oil, but refined petroleum products such as petrol, diesel, kerosene, jet fuel, and gas. It has also put upward pressure on prices of fertilizer, food, and other essential production materials. At the same time, it has made investors more cautious about putting their money in developing countries, with many choosing safer assets such as gold and other rare metals. In Nigeria, economic activity has remained resilient, supported by improved confidence in the overall economic management. While growth is still below potential, the economy has clearly moved away from crisis conditions towards a more stable recovery. Gains continue to be made in addressing inflation. From a high of 34.8% at the end of 2024, inflation fell to about 15.06% by February 2026. This means prices are rising more slowly than before, giving some relief to households and businesses. Price discovery in the foreign exchange market has also become more entrenched, and the margin between official and borrowed exchange rates have narrowed. Nigeria's external reserves have grown to over $50 billion, the highest in more than a decade, reflecting stronger confidence and providing external buffers. At its February 2026 meeting, the Monetary Policy Committee reviewed the progress made in slowing down inflation. Although inflation had reduced significantly, the committee remained cautious due to concerns such as election-related spending, heightening global uncertainties, and other structural inflation drivers. Consequently, the MPC eased marginally by 50 basis points to 26.5%, but ensuring that overall conditions remain adequately tight to prevent inflation from rising again. While interest rates remain relatively high, it is a necessary trade-off to restore stability. The MPC's decisions, therefore, reflect not only economic data, but also the need to influence expectations, reinforce discipline, and encourage responsible fiscal and market behavior. In addition, the central bank reaffirmed its transition from the current monetary policy approach to an inflation targeting framework. This means that keeping prices stable will be the main focus of monetary policy, with clearer goals and more transparent decision-making. The overall policy direction of the central bank is one that brings more predictable policies, better control of inflation, and greater confidence in the economy. It, however, requires discipline, consistency, and close cooperation between the government and the central bank to ensure that interest rates, exchange rates, and public expectations all work together to support price stability and economic growth. For the average Nigerian, the benefits of these recent gains are beginning to emerge. Slower inflation means that prices of food, transport, and energy are rising less rapidly than before, helping to stabilize purchasing power, as price stability remains the most effective way to improve living standards and reduce economic uncertainty for Nigerians. Improved FX stability reduces the uncertainty for small businesses, traders, and manufacturers alike that depends on imported inputs. Over time, stronger confidence and investments are expected to support job creation and income growth. Although risks abound, the outlook for the remainder of 2026 is one of optimism, supported by the disinflation trajectory, stronger FX market functioning, a recapitalized banking industry, and improved investor confidence. Inflation is expected to continue moderating, provided policy discipline is maintained and external shocks are effectively managed. In conclusion, Nigeria has made substantial progress in restoring macroeconomic stability, strengthening market confidence, and repositioning monetary policy towards a more transparent and credible framework. While challenges persist, the foundation for stability are stronger than they have been in years. With continued commitment, Nigeria can achieve a more stable economy that supports growth and improved welfare for all.
This program, Facts Behind the Figures, tells a clear story that engagement is strong, understanding is growing, and trust remains central. Monetary policy is not only about decisions made in boardrooms, it's about conversations with citizens, listening, explaining, and responding. At the Central Bank of Nigeria, the commitment remains unchanged to communicate clearly, engage meaningfully, and lead with purpose. Let us keep the conversation going.